Just off with the sound test. Alright, popping the soda didn't make it incredibly loud, but we're gonna enjoy some late night zero sugar frostbite. I have tried to do this on multiple occasions, but I've looked up some tutorials, got some help from my brother, and I'm hoping that this goes a lot better. Let's see. I just want to see if I can see it on my second monitor. But I assume it's going to make it echo, and I'm going to regret my life. But let's see. Okay, yeah, it's definitely echoing. But let's see if I turn off the sound. Okay. I don't know how to turn on chat in OBS, so I feel like I have to have this up. All right, let's get out of full screen mode. There we go. Okay. And again, this is just a test, but before I was having the worst latency problems, and I discovered that the default on OBS is like 20 seconds, which is kind of crazy to me. All right, welcome. I feel like I should show you my animation first, just because that was the thumbnail for the test. And so here we have the original character for original dew flavor. And I'm wanting to prepare to get these posted on some websites like Reddit or something. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to like turn it into a name that Pokemon thing. And so I grabbed this image of Ash as reference and then redrew my character in that pose. Something that I noticed when I was building this out, it's like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like Ash's arm is like stupidly big or long, I should say. So if we cut this out, let's see if I can do that. So we're going to try cutting this out. So this is where his shoulder should be. So maybe it's just an illusion. Maybe it's fine. But I don't know. So let's see. So if we bring it to where it should... Okay. Yeah, it's a little off. It is coming towards us, so maybe it's not as bad if I like make it a little bit like in perspective. But you know, it should be something like this. So, you know, technically this is like monkey arms a little bit, which is why I laughed because when you are measuring your character's arm, they're, you know, and I get this, I mess up on this too, but technically the elbow comes pretty in line with the navel, and then um the forearm should come down, like, so the tip of your fingers should be like halfway down your thigh. So if his fingers are like coming down to his knees, that's a little low. All right, so that was my reference. Plan that out. And I'd never really animated a character with like flowing clothes. And you'll see I did a bunch of variations just because I wasn't sure what I wanted the like special effect animation to do. Um, and special effect animation is like deceptively hard. It doesn't take that many frames to like animate fire or electricity or water, but to get that movement is really complex, and I am definitely not in practice with that. So I feel like I spent as much time trying to figure out uh, the special effect animation as I did the final. Uh, but this is what I got in the end. So it's just 5 frames that loop. And again, I'd never really tried to do animation where you're almost doing cloth simulation with the flow, but I was happy with it. I feel like it loops pretty well. So that's something I did last weekend that I wanted to live stream, but I couldn't get it to work. So we'll hopefully get to post that somewhere online sometime soon. Something that I've been working on this week was just taking that same character, which is supposed to represent the original Mountain Dew, and just trying to practice different facial expressions. And I've only drawn this character a couple of times, so this also gives me a chance to experiment with changing the design. Like, I don't know exactly how I want the hair to be all the time. And so by doing it over and over, you kind of get a better idea of what's working and what's not working. Like, her hair feels very floaty in this one, even though I was trying to make it look like it's sticking up a little bit, like she's really irritated. Um, this was my first time doing a profile, which I thought looked pretty decent. So just experimenting with that. I'll do some more. But I asked my kids what their favorite Mountain Dew characters were from all the different flavors that I've drawn over the last 6 months. And one of them is for Uproar. And Uproar is a soda flavor that's only available with Lion Foods on the East Coast. It's like a strawberry kiwi, and they do not have Lion Foods in most of the country, so I haven't had a chance to try that yet. But this is the design I have for that so far. I'm hoping to turn this into like a shirt design that my children could potentially wear. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. There's like a print shop near my house, and we'll just give it a try. So, gonna keep the colors more limited. This is my original, and even though I took it to like final color, just so that it presents better, and I had a better sense of the color palette. Really, it's a first draft, and so it's one of those things where I'll continue to try little changes, but I didn't really change much with this design. So when I drew this, like I wanted the hair to flow and kind of be crazy to get that sense of movement. But it's really hard with like anime inspired characters to get like that stiff hairspray clumped grouping look, but then also get that like, I don't know, like Pocahontas flowy look at the same time, but not totally morph the character into something that you can't recognize. So I don't. I honestly am not sure if I've done a good job mixing that. That's what I attempted here, and I'm just noticing I missed a couple of spots. So trying to still represent the original hair, but make it feel like it's flowing as they're kind of like falling. I mean, I don't know. It looks kind of suicidal, but she has her eyes closed, so it's calm and peaceful. And then here are the sketching layers. So I started with this first. Profile shots really used to bug me, especially in my style. But I feel like I've done a better job lately of getting that to actually look halfway decent. I always am kind of annoyed with the way they do anime style characters in profile. Like their mouths always like go sideways, and it just doesn't quite look right. So I don't know. I think it's working. So I planned this out, and then obviously did the final lines, and then I really struggled to figure out how, like what pose I was going to do for this upside down pose. So I did flip it around, and that's what I sketched out before I went into my final lines. So something that I know a lot of beginning artists struggle with is the fact that they don't see this build up process, and so they don't realize how important it is to map out and blueprint your design. I like created so many poses before I got to this pose. You have to allow yourself to, bounce ideas and say no to things that just don't feel right. And again, I'm not sure if the hair is quite right, but I think we're on the right track. And I know as a high school artist, I got to a point where I felt like I had like proportions memorized and I could just skip this stuff. And then my poses started to get really static. So it's really, really good to always build up with that. All right, so the nice thing is I have these colors. So let's try to bring this color into this pose. So I'm going to make a separate hair layer. I don't like how green this hair is right there. So let's try to sample something else. I think this will be better. So I really don't want to do crazy shading on this. I'm thinking I'm going to keep like more flat colors. But if I do the hair color on its own layer, I can always change it layer. Yeah, this is looking a little bit on the gold side, but it'll work. And this, I don't know, one thing that I definitely never feel comfortable with is coloring, because it's not my favorite thing. And I always feel like there surely is a faster way of doing this, but I don't know. So let me know if you can think of something. I feel like I need to have like hair right there. Yeah, I kind of forgot the hair behind her head there, so that'll help fill up that space. I'll go back to that later, but I'm just going to outline everything. So I'm using technical pen. Um, when I'm drawing my inks, which I already finished before I started this live stream, I use, gosh, what is it called? Ink bleed. So I have that under my recents ink bleed. Really love the texture of that one. I just use the default brushes. I should probably explore making my own or finding custom brushes, but I really like the texture and the line weight of ink bleed. And then I found that using technical brush allows me to fill in the color because it's such a smooth brush. So I can just come up on this line on a layer underneath my line art, and then I can section it off. So even though I have more to do, maybe I'll try to section off here now if I can. All right, so we have this first section. Let's see if I can get it filled in. Yeah, so we just pulled that color right in and it filled in. Sometimes it doesn't because you don't see the gaps underneath your line art, but it worked that time, which is nice. All right, we just need to outline the rest of the hair. So I don't know. Christmas is coming up, and so I was like, oh, I need to kind of test printing for the future, anyways. Maybe I can just make these like more interesting action pose slash designs based on some of the characters that my girls enjoyed the most, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm gonna actually have enough time to get them all done. So we'll see. This one I need to color the entire image and then come up with a background. So when I teach art, I really emphasize like trying to communicate emotion in the supporting elements. So I'm hoping that I can come up with a good background design for this so that it just elevates it and makes it feel more finished, more complete. So right now the white background's very boring, so having something to kind of complement the emotion I'm going for will make it feel less suicidal and more calming, which is what I'm going for. This character's supposed to be very annoyed. Like, she's just doesn't want to be anywhere, which kind of reminds me of a lot of my students. Like, I constantly have to tell a decent amount of them to take the AirPods out of their freaking ears, which they know is a school rule, but they do it every day, anyways. And I have to be like, hey, bro, what are you doing? But yeah, you forgot about the thing I tell you every single time. I just, all right, yeah, take it out. 5 minutes later, I was actually I forgot. So that's always fun, And you'd think, hey, let them listen to some music while they're enjoying your class, but then you try to get their attention because there's like a fire they can't hear you, and then they melt, and then you have a lawsuit. So that's never fun. I'm wondering, I think that was supposed to be uh, forehead, but I'm wondering if that's going to be too much forehead. So you definitely realize you miss some spots as you go. Like I missed that hair earlier. And you notice my like pen, like sometimes it doesn't pull. Like that was a weird mark it just made. So I don't know what's going on with that. But generally, the drawing experience with the iPad is just the best. I mean, I don't get to try everything, but I used to use a Wacom that cost way more, and it was not nearly as good. All right, let's go back to the skin layer and see if it's going to look okay if I add skin here. And I'm going to put the skin layer below the hair layer. I think that makes more sense. Okay, I think that's going to work for now. It's very Sleeping Beauty hair color, except I think Sleeping Beauty's hair is more of like a golden gray, and this is more of like a golden green. And we'll see. I need to switch this back. So I'm cheating here. Like, so if she's falling upside down, the hair should all be, everything should be flowing this way because of the resistance, like pushing against the wind. But I have it kind of whipping around, going upwards, just because I feel like it makes it feel more floaty, which again makes it feel more serene and relaxing. So definitely not a realistic element, but I think it helps capture the feeling, which is more important. All right, and then I'm noticing this is still a little off. Notice these things when they zoom in, and you gotta wonder, like, will people actually be able to see that when it's zoomed out? But who knows if it's going to be on a shirt. I don't want it to be rushed. All right, so we need to sketch in a little bit of design because I totally missed the hair back here. So I like to sketch in 6B. Let's try to grab like the purple here. It'll be close enough. All right, so she has that long hair behind her. Wondering how to convey that without being too distracting. I think I'm going to keep it kind of the same. Just kind of like billowing a little more poofed out instead of straight. But I don't want it to be too busy and make it hard to read the AirPod. Yeah, so I think that is going to work. Something like that. And it just helps fill up that space and is more to the original design. So let's go to the line art, go to ink bleed. Let's fill that in. Okay. And sometimes you don't connect it. just so it's easier to read the other elements. So I think that'll work. And hopefully you guys can hear me okay. We'll see how this goes when I look back at it. But I can only get my headphones so close and then I'm looking down. So maybe I'm too quiet, but hopefully it's decent. I know my wife came in. Maybe you heard her and she's like, "You're keeping me up." But I wanted to try this now while everyone was asleep. It's quiet. And I feel like that little strand shouldn't be there. Okay. Used your hair done. Yeah, I think so. I wonder if it should bring her nose down a little bit, but it is supposed to be pretty high. It makes her look like she's kind of pushing her head back a little bit, which I think is good. So I think it's fine. I was like, what the heck is this like heart looking thing? But I think that's supposed to be a hole. Let's actually name this skin. I like to draw holes. I have a couple of other characters that have like kind of like holes in their shirts. Kind of like my shirts where I never buy new ones and they just become holey. But it's just one of those little attention to detail things that I've always been obsessed with. I just like things looking a little more punk and tattered. I think this is that actually, no. Where did this mark come from? Isn't that fun? Huh. Okay. Well, let's turn that back on and then it won't matter. Wonder where that came from. I bet you it's stuck on hair. No. Alright. Odd. It doesn't matter. Alright, let's make a hair layer for this other one. And I'm doing these separate because obviously they have different line art set up. But in the final design, I might actually fade this whole thing so it's not it's more of like a background element. So again, I wanted to try doing a profile on the character and I thought it looks pretty good. The inspiration of this is that she's supposed to kind of be like Simba in Lion King, like looking to the clouds, seeing Mufasa. It's like, father? And I'm doing that because Uproar has like a lion theme to it, so that's why she kind of has like those more tribal bands. So she kind of has like a slight African flair that connects it to the whole lion idea. Which is amusing to me because like clearly Lions Foods made some kind of deal with looks like she has a booger coming out of her nose. They made a deal with Mountain Dew, but then they make the whole theme lion related. So like clearly like, oh, you know, you give us this money, you get this exclusive Mountain Dew, and we'll have it all like lion related, and it'll be called Uproar. Which, it's all fun. I think it's really creative design, but then like a month earlier, you do an exclusive deal with Kroger to have thrashed apple, and it's just apples. Um, like I don't know, I just think it's interesting that they, just because it's called Lion's Food, they had like that gave enough visual like creativity to like have fun with it, whereas like Kroger is such a boring name that it's just like, oh, it's apple flavored, so we'll just make these like Rockstar apples. Has no connection to your brand. So it's just interesting to me. Kroger here in Colorado, it's called King Supers, which is like the most ridiculous grocery store name. But it's so ridiculous, it's awesome. So maybe they could have like, if it was like exclusive to King Supers, maybe it would have been like Royal something. And that could have been more amusing, but it's not the case. And I'm pretty sure Uproar, I don't know. I'm gonna assume that Uproar just tastes like kiwi strawberry in the sense that that's all you taste. Um, some Mountain Dew drinks do a good job of actually tasting like, oh, this is like a remix of Mountain Dew. You can taste the citrusy, like overall feeling of Mountain Dew, but then we've added this extra element on top. But some Mountain Dews, when you drink it, you're just like, this tastes like uh, a fruity drink. Like it has no relation to Mountain Dew, and I just have a feeling the kiwi strawberry is like that, but I could be wrong. Like, I don't know. I don't really taste the Mountain Dew and thrashed apple, but it just tastes like, green Jolly Ranchers, which is amazing. So I'm not going to complain. I think it's good. And before, the only way you could get the apple flavor is like at that whatever pizza place in like food courts at the mall. I forget what it was called. Ours went out of business, but there was like an electric apple or whatever that they would mix a flavoring into Mountain Dew. So it still tasted like Mountain Dew with like this tart apple in it. And it was pretty good, but uh, when that went out of business, all of a sudden the next year it became an actual label. And Kroger paid to have it exclusive. So if you don't live near a Kroger, sucks to be you, bruh. Just like one of my friends in Boston, there's really no Krogers out there, so I don't think he's been able to try it. He should have tried it when he went out to Utah. I forgot to remind him of that. I wonder if he did it. Probably not. All right, I always like to do the eyebrows like significantly darker just to distinguish it from the hair, but I usually do it on the same layer because it's just one small element. And obviously, I cheated with the hair, like, because this side should be her bangs, like covering her face, but that wouldn't be visually interesting unless you're going like full emo. And as Ben Stiller says, you never go full emo, so we're not going to do that here either. All right, let's go back to the hair here. Like, I like doing line art. I like designing stuff, but holy moly. like doing color is like it makes it feel finished, but it's just like, what am I doing here? There's very little creative decisions going on. It's just something that you have to fill in. And for me, it's like, ugh, boring. All right, let's start going into some clothes. I want to do the shirt. And get into some deep shirt now. All right. I just tweak that color. Let's see. I'm gonna look. You can't see it. I'm gonna look up uproar. Make sure I'm doing a good green, because that's where I got like. Yeah, I think it's. Oh, I'm gonna make it a little lighter. That's where I got these color palettes is from the actual like bottles. Yeah, gotta make sure you're on the right layer sometimes. It's bad news sometimes. But this is what I really like about this project is I clearly enjoy Mountain Dew, but I've always been impressed with Mountain Dew's marketing and like sense of graphic design identity. Uh, they like clearly care and they give personality to each design, and no one else really does that with soda. Uh, I don't know if they even do it with candy, really. Like Mountain Dew is like on a whole nother level. So those designs just give me enough direction to feel like these different flavors have their own identities, but I obviously interpret them with the way I want to do that. But I definitely am constantly looking at the original designs and using that as like a design bible, and I like that. I like giving yourself rules, something to limit the possibilities, because I've never drawn something that I enjoy as much as this project. When I've come up with my own original characters, I don't know. There's some that I've really enjoyed, but there's just this disconnect where it's like, oh yeah, I mean, visually it looks nice, but what's their story? Like, what connection do I have to them? It's like they're not really alive, but I have enough connection with drinking soda that giving a face to those flavors is super satisfying to me. So, if you're an artist, I hope you find something that can drive you like that, because it's made a world of difference for me. Little joke there. Sweatpants. Oof, I almost wrote Nike. All right. Like I've drawn all my life, but I've never had something so motivating to draw, and I think that's something I never quite realized was so vital, and it's hard to explain because I don't even know if people really catch that fire like I did this past June. But when I randomly had this idea to draw Mountain Dew as a character in my style, I was like, oh my gosh, like my passion for soda and drawing are being combined, and why didn't I think about this before? It like lit a fire in me that just made me realize like this is more important to me than anything I've ever drawn before, which was really weird to experience. Something that I think about like way too much is, and this relates to what I'm talking about. Um, I remember, like, a long time ago now, like seeing Pride and Prejudice and Zombies at like a Barnes and Nobles back in the day. And I had never read that book, but I was so envious of that idea where this author, this writer, took a classic book that was in the public domain so they could do whatever they wanted with no permission and just alter it and change it into some hypocrisy to this classic that is so modern and ridiculous and amusing. Since I do like horror and zombies and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great idea. And they, made a lot of money, I assume. I mean, it was popular enough that it gave him a career, and he got to help write, what was it, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I don't, maybe that was a book too, but I know he at least helped with the screenplay. Maybe he helped with the screenplay with it. And then he also wrote some book about the three wise men that visit Jesus as a baby. And like, I don't know, I can't remember if vampires were trying to attack them. It was something crazy, but he'd just take these like classic stories that have been with us forever and he'd just be like, what if we did this? And so that's kind of what something I found with this project is, Mountain Dew is in our everyday lives. It's definitely for me. It's like, well, what if I did this? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but it's definitely going where somewhere in my mind. I just keep on iterating on it and extending it, and it's got plenty of fuel to keep me going, which is great. So hopefully you have some idea or some interest that motivates you. And that's the thing I try to iterate to my students, like as an art teacher, is like I could assign homework, like I could force you to do more study, but if you don't have like an intrinsic motivation, what's the point, right? We all have different talents, different motivations, different skill sets, and I think anyone can learn how to draw. But if you don't have an intrinsic motivation, you're not going to want to practice, and you're not going to practice as much as someone that like is super motivated to do that same thing. So it doesn't make sense to me. Um, and art is something that I've enjoyed doing all my life, but there's definitely been times in my life where I barely draw. Like I think I've gone like a whole year without drawing in the past. Uh, and this is definitely the most I've ever drawn in my life over the last 6 months. And it's super rewarding for me. Like I was spending a lot of time Oh, look, I drew on the wrong hair. Gosh dang it. All right, let's see. Yeah, let's go back. Um, like I enjoy playing video games, but I haven't been playing nearly as much video games because that was like kind of my goal. Uh, you have family goals, you have life goals, you have career goals, but I'm someone that like I need something to kind of reach for, and so with video games, like okay, I'm gonna try to get to this level, I'm gonna try to get this achievement, and that was something that I enjoyed doing, but now it just turned into okay, I'm gonna get this flavor done. I'm gonna get this flavor done in Mountain Dew, and then realizing that there's over 50 flavors of Mountain Dew that have come out over the last like plus decade, 15 years maybe. It's like, oh my gosh. And getting that done in 6 months is kind of nutty. So that's what I've been doing. All right, let's get this gold. And with this, because it's not similar to the hair, I am going to make its own layer. Maybe I'll do like metal slash necklace. Oh my gosh, something I just realized is like she has the bands on her arm that I totally forgot about. And it does like add a breakup on the arm. So I think I'll have to go back and add that because I do think it is helpful. Oh, whoopsie. All right. Yeah, you gotta love it when you go. I mean, that's the one good thing with having to color your own stuff is you definitely it gives you enough time to go back and be like, oh yeah, I forgot that part, which has already happened a couple of times. All right, so then let's get this color. I think originally I wanted a little more red in this to get a little bit of that strawberry color, but still needed to look kind of like a polished wood kind of color. So we wouldn't want it to look like animal ivory or anything like that. Could could you imagine the uproar? Pun intended. All right, let's get this done. Yeah, so I know that coloring is not the most exciting thing in the world. Um, but for a first stream, it's definitely a lot easier to talk because it's so much more mindless. Whereas if I was drawing this line art, I could be talking about what I was thinking in my head, but I wouldn't be telling you all this background stuff, having random conversations. Because when I'm shading and coloring, it's like doing in betweens in animation. You can kind of turn off your brain because it's a lot more technical. Um, whereas when you're doing the shape design and the line quality designs, I think that's something that takes a lot more focus. Cool. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to add that little armband, but I think I'm going to call it here today. Just because I don't even know if this audio is working. So I talked long enough that I can go back, see if it's working, and then maybe try this again sometime soon. And then hopefully I can like show you the artwork when it's done, or maybe I'll continue working on it in another live stream. We'll see. But thanks for stopping by. My frostbite is almost gone. Now it's done. Gone. All right. Have a good night, and I will talk to you later.